The Battle of Karbala took place on Muharram 10, in the year 61 of the Islamic calendar in Karbala, in present-day Iraq. The battle took place between a small group of supporters and relatives of Muhammad's grandson, Husayn ibn Ali, and a larger military detachment from the forces of Yazid I, the Umayyad Caliph. When Muawiyah I died in 680, Husayn did not give allegiance to his son, Yazid I, who had been appointed as Umayyad Caliph by Muawiyah, and considered this action as the breach of the Hassan-Muawiyah treaty. The people of Kufa sent letters to Husayn, asking his help and pledging their allegiance to him, but they did not support him later. As Husayn traveled towards Kufa, a nearby place known as Karbala, his caravan was intercepted by Yazid I's army. He was killed and beheaded in the Battle of Karbala by Shim ibn Thil-Jawshan, along with most of his family and companions, including Husayn's 6-month-old infant son, Ali al-Asghar ibn Husayn, with the women and children taken as prisoners. The dead are regarded as martyrs by both Sunni and Shia Muslims, and the battle has a central place in Shia history and tradition, and has frequently been recounted in Shia Islamic literature. The Battle of Karbala is commemorated during an annual 10-day period held every Muharram by Shia, and a levee culminating on its 10th day, known as the Day of Ashura. Shia Muslims commemorate these events by mourning, holding public processions, organizing majlis, striking the chest and in some cases self-flagellation. Political background. During Ali's caliphate, the Muslim world became divided and war broke between him and Muawiyah I. When Ali was assassinated by Ibn Muljam, who struck his head with a sword whilst he was in prostration in prayer in 661, his elder son, Hassan ibn Ali, succeeded him but soon signed a peace treaty with Muawiyah to avoid further bloodshed. In the Hassan-Muawiyah treaty, Hassan ibn Ali handed over power to Muawiyah on the condition that he be just to the people and keep them safe and secure, and that he not establish a dynasty. Hassan and Husayn then moved to Medina. Following this, Muawiyah broke the conditions of the agreement and began the Umayyad dynasty, with its capital in Damascus. This brought to an end the era of the rightly guided caliphs for the Sunnis, and Hassan ibn Ali was also the last imam for the Shias to be a caliph. Husayn ibn Ali became the head of Banu Hashim after death of his older brother, Hassan ibn Ali, in 670. His father's supporters in Kufa gave their allegiance to him. However, he told them he was still bound by the peace treaty between Hassan and Muawiyah I. Later, Husayn did not accept the request of Muawiyah for the succession of his son, Yazid I, and considered this action as the breach of the Hassan-Muawiyah treaty. According to Hassan-Muawiyah treaty, Muawiyah wouldn't name a successor during his reign and let the Islamic world choose their successor after the latter. When Muawiyah I died in 680, Husayn refused to pledge allegiance to Yazid I, who had just been appointed as Umayyad Caliph by Muawiyah, because he considered Umayyads as oppressive and religiously misguided regime. He insisted on his legitimacy based on his own special position as a direct descendant of Muhammad and his legitimate legatees. As a consequence, he left Medina, his hometown, to take refuge in Mecca in 60 Ibn Kathir wrote in his book the Al-Bidayah wa Nihayah that, in the year 56 Muawiyah called on the people, including those within the outlying territories, to pledge allegiance to his son, Yazid, to be his heir to the caliphate after him. Almost all the subjects offered their allegiance, with the exception of Abdurrahman bin Abu Bakr, Abdullah ibn Umar, Al-Husayn bin Ali, Abdullah bin Arizona Zubair and Abdullah ibn Abbas. Because of this, Muawiyah passed through Al-Madinah on his way back from Mecca upon completion of his Umrah pilgrimage, where he summoned each one of the 5 aforementioned individuals and threatened them. The speaker who addressed Muawiyah sharply with the greatest firmness amongst them was Abdurrahman bin Abu Bakr, while Abdullah ibn Umar was the most soft-spoken amongst them. Muawiyah then delivered a sermon, having stood these 5 men below the pulpit in full view of the people, after which the people pledged allegiance to Yazid as they stood in silence, without displaying their disagreement or opposition for fear of being humiliated. Sa'id bin Uthman bin Affan, the son of Uthman, also criticized Muawiyah for putting forward Yazid. They tolerated Muawiyah, but did not like Yazid. In his written instructions to Yazid, Muawiyah suggested specific strategies for each one of them. Muawiyah warned Yazid specifically about Husayn ibn Ali, since he was the only blood relative of Muhammad. Abdallah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar did not want to start another civil war and wanted to wait. Abdallah ibn al-Zubayr challenged them and went to Mecca with Husayn. Some people claim that Husayn ibn Ali rejected the appointment of Yazid as the heir of the caliphate, as he was a tyrant and would destroy Islam. Therefore, he resolved to confront Yazid. Events before the battle. Muawiyah I died on Rajab 22, 60 in violation of Islamic tradition and his own written agreement with Hassan ibn Ali. Muawiyah I appointed his son Yazid as his successor, converting the caliphate into a dynasty. Few notables of the Islamic community were crucial to lending some legitimacy to this conversion of the caliphate into a dynasty. Even people like Said ibn Uthman and Anaf ibn Qais denounced his caliphate. Husayn ibn Ali was the most significant threat to this dynastic rule, since he was the only living grandson of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Yazid instructed his governor Walid in Medina to force Husayn ibn Ali to pledge allegiance to Yazid. Husayn refused it and said that, "Anyone akin to me will never accept anyone akin to Yazid as a ruler." Husayn departed Medina on Rajab 28, 60 2 days after Walid's attempt to force him to submit to Yazid I's rule. He stayed in Mecca from the beginnings of the month of Sha'ban and all of the months of Ramadan, Shawwal, as well as Dhu al-Qa'dah. It is mainly during his stay in Mecca that he received many letters from Kufa assuring him their support and asking him to come over there and guide them. He answered their calls and sent Muslim ibn Aqil, his cousin, to Kufa as his representative in an attempt to consider the exact situation and public opinion. Husayn's representative to Kufa, Muslim ibn Aqil, was welcomed by the people of Kufa, and most of them swore allegiance to him. After this initial observation, Muslim ibn Aqil wrote to Husayn ibn Ali that the situation in Kufa was favorable. However, after the arrival of the new governor of Kufa, Ubaydallah ibn Ziyad, the scenario changed. Muslim ibn Aqil and his host, Hani ibn Urwa, were executed on Dhu al-Hijjah 9, 60 without any real resistance of the people. This shifted the loyalties of the people of Kufa, in favor of Yazid and against Husayn ibn Ali. Husayn ibn Ali also discovered that Yazid had appointed Amr ibn Sabah ad ibn Al-As as the head of an army, ordering him to take charge of the pilgrimage caravans and to kill al-Husayn ibn Ali wherever he could find him during Hajj, and hence decided to leave Mecca on 8th Dhu al-Hijjah 60 just a day before Hajj, and was contented with Umrah, due to his concern about potential violation of the sanctity of the Kaaba. He delivered a sermon at the Kaaba highlighting his reasons to leave, that he didn't want the sanctity of the Kaaba to be violated, since his opponents had crossed any norm of decency and were willing to violate all tenets of Islam. When Husayn ibn Ali was making up his mind to leave for Kufa, Abdallah ibn Abbas and Abdallah ibn al-Zubayr held a meeting with him and advised him not to move to Iraq, or, if he was determined to move, not to take women and children with him in this dangerous journey. Hussein ibn Ali, however, had resolved to go ahead with his plan. He gave a speech to people the day before his departure and said, "The death is a certainty for mankind, just like the trace of necklace on the neck of young girls. And I am enamored of my ancestors like eagerness of Jacob to Joseph. Everyone who is going to devote his blood for our sake and is prepared to meet Allah, must depart with us." On their way to Kufa, the small caravan received the news of the execution of Muslim ibn Aqil and the indifference of the people of Kufa. Instead of turning back, Hussein decided to continue the journey and sent Qais ibn Musahir al-Sidawi as messenger to talk to the nobles of Kufa. The messenger was captured in the vicinity of Kufa, but managed to tear the letter to pieces to hide names of its recipients. Just like Muslim ibn Aqil, Qais ibn Musahir al-Sidawi was executed.